happy Saturday. And thank you so much for having me, for inviting me to talk a little bit about the programs that we have at Jumpstart Refugee Talent. And before I introduce Jumpstart, I'll introduce myself first in a little bit more detail than David. And David, thank you for that introduction. I'm a former refugee from Eritrea. I was privately sponsored myself to come to Canada in 2016. I've been involved in dozens of um, private sponsorship processes, whether it's Group of Five sponsorship agreement holder, the I forgot what that not great acronym that we have for the partnership between private sponsors and government. So I've been involved in that kind of sponsorship myself. I did work for the RSTP, the Refugee Sponsorship Training Program. So I'm very familiar with the work that you do. I have so much respect for the work that you do. I know it's not easy, and it takes so much commitment and resources, and so yeah, shout out to everyone who's very involved, and I know some of you have been doing this for decades. So again, much respect for the work that you do. Um, so I moved from the RSTP, the Refugee Sponsorship Training Program, to Jumpstart Refugee Talent mid 2022, June 2022. And the reason that I like Jumpstart is that it's a refugee-led charitable organization that is dedicated to the economic empowerment of people with refugee and forced displacement experience. And really the focus is on meaningful employment and entrepreneurial opportunities. So as all of you know, refugees are not, categorized in one group. There are refugees that were not very fortunate to have spent decades and decades in refugee camps, not being able to get opportunities for higher education and employment opportunities. But there are also a lot more that are educated, that are coming with higher education, with years and years of work experience. And Jumpstart thought that there was a gap in really providing the tools and the resources necessary for those who are coming to Canada with a little bit of English, with higher education and work experience, to be able to go back to their industry, to gain their confidence back, and to navigate the Canadian job market. And so that's how Jumpstart positions itself. It's a position of empowerment, where we really work with the newcomer refugees and forcibly displaced people in providing the tools and resources, the connection, so that they can, again, get that confidence back, get that first job, and continue to live in this beautiful country that we have. And so, again, I'm not going to educate you on the challenge that newcomer refugees face. You're all very familiar. You've been working with refugees, but few of the challenge that we know at Jumpstart Refugee Talent are the ones that you see on the screen, but there are a lot more than that. There is racism, there is, a lot more challenge that refugees are facing. Refugees being stuck on survival jobs, not being able to get time and resources to move out of that. So the challenges are really way more than what you see on the screen, but these are a few. And again, well, we truly believe that if the newcomer refugees get the right resources, the right information, the right tools, and the right connection early on, and they can minimize the time that they will be stuck on survival jobs or they will be unemployed. And you know, in a little bit somewhere in down the conversation, I'll be sharing a little bit about my pathway to what I am today as well. And so I will get into each of those points, but I will not be spending a lot of time assuming that you know majority of you again know those, and the slides will be shared with you. So given that I have very limited time, I'll be going through those one by one very briefly, and I'll spend more time on the services that Jumpstart provide um, and and so on. And so the reason we're starting from this as opposed to what we do at Jumpstart, again, our position really is a position of empowerment. We don't want the newcomers and the newcomer refugees to be entirely dependent on us. We want them to feel empowered. So we want to give them the tools and resources and the strategies so that they can really navigate the job search journey on their own, but Jumpstart also provides the necessary tools and resources. So language is the number one barrier. Again, I'm not going to tell you about this. You know all this. But the challenge that, you know, when I was training sponsors at the RSTP, some of the things that we were saying is that, you know, please encourage the newcomer refugees to invest on trainings on language as opposed to, you know, going directly into the job search process when their English level is not that strong. So again, you know this. Some of the ways to mitigate the challenge is also credential evaluation. Jumpstart partners with World Education Services in providing credential evaluation. I'll get into more details later on. Who are the people that we support, why we get involved in the process. But there are many reasons people should, newcomer refugees, if they have their documents from back home, if they were educated, that the need to do credential evaluation is if they want to continue higher education, if they want to do professional accreditation, whether it's a PMP, CPA, and whatnot, you know, others really helps them to get their confidence back, to see that their education from back home was recognized in Canada as equivalent to whether it's a bachelor's degree or master's degree and whatnot. So that is really relevant. And and again, so, you know, really early on that we encourage newcomer refugees to kind of navigate where their strength is, what they want to do, and what's the best way to move forward. So whether it's a long-term education like university, college training, bridging programs, or even short-term trainings, seminars, conferences, you know, internship, volunteering, those are the things that we really highly encourage for sponsors to encourage the newcomers to get involved early on. Not when so some of the mistakes that we see a lot of the newcomers do is they come to Canada, they start the job hunt, they work really hard to try to get jobs. 8 months, a year into the job search journey, they realize that they need to do something for their education from back home to be valued. Unfortunately, employers doesn't value international experience as much as they should do. So figuring that out a year into the process means you wasted already a year as opposed to starting early on and really taking advantage of the time, especially when you have the support from the private sponsors. The other area that newcomers struggle we see is soft skills. Again, the job search strategy, the requirements is not the same. The North American is not the same as East and West Africa or maybe the Middle East or somewhere else. So investing in those kind of trainings is really, really important. And there are plenty of resources out there that would be helpful. So again, communication, relationship building, networking, critical thinking, those kind of things really maximize the chances of newcomers in getting meaningful employment, especially in a very competitive job market as we are now. And the job search strategies, again, what are the best ways? So some people really invest a lot of time sitting at home, applying on LinkedIn, applying on Indeed. But again, as I said, sending only resume is not good enough. International experience is not valued. So the best way is to find other strategies where they can see you, they can hear you, they can see the value that you bring, as opposed to only looking at your resume, which is oftentimes not designed as per the Canadian standard, but also international experience. Employers do not want to invest time or resources, or don't even have interest, to be honest, to see if those institutions that newcomers studied back home are legitimate institutions or not. And so the best way really is for them to understand those job search strategies in detail, so that they can create opportunities where they will be heard, they will be seen physically, as opposed to only sending resume. But also knowing the game. Unfortunately, it's a game. You have to, they have to know the game, how to design your resume and cover letter, how to ask people for coffee chats, where to find mentorship and volunteer opportunities, how to target the employers and how to connect with them, how do you introduce yourself. Those are the things that are entirely different from where they came from. So really, like, providing tools and resources in those areas and encouraging them to invest more time in those areas is really critical. Again, understanding the Canadian corporate culture. What are the expectations? What are the specific you know, expertise, the specific culture, that specific organization or specific industry that you have. Is it, do they work 9 to 5? Do they require flexible, um, you know, uh, schedule? Is it, so really like helping them to understand the culture of the specific industry would maximize the chances of them, getting that job interview, or getting that mentor, or getting into volunteer opportunity. Um, and the power of networking. Again, I am pretty sure all of you know this, and 80+% jobs in Canada are filled through personal connections. So that means newcomer refugees, without your connection, they don't have anything else. And so, and again, I'm not going to educate you on this. I know a lot of you use your platforms and your connections to help them connect. But even beyond that, to provide the tools and resources and the information for them to use different resources to connect, whether it's a virtual space. Again, a lot of newcomers do not use necessarily LinkedIn's, or their LinkedIn's are not updated, or they don't use them more often. And so, but again, that's, I was doing a career navigation support to a newcomer a few days ago, and he was telling me the way he was approaching LinkedIn is that he would target a few companies where he wants to work, and then he would go to LinkedIn. He would, type on LinkedIn, the people that are working at that company, and he would send them a message asking them for a coffee chat. And that is the best way to do it. And so again, that's one way. In-person events, whether it's conferences, workshops, those are the places where they can go. Again, I was speaking with somebody who's a singer and has experience in arts for over 15 years, and I told her, like, were you going to some, art groups? Were you looking for this? I didn't know I could do that. And so I think those kind of networking opportunities make a difference. And so, but again, to meet, again, it's a game. They need to know how to play the game, how to prepare an elevator pitch, how to send, how to, when you contact people, how many times should you ask them on LinkedIn to meet, or how many people from that company should you contact. And so you really, like, those things, and understanding that, the networking relationship that you're asking is not a transactional, yeah, hey, here's me, can you find me a job? No, build that relationship. Those are the kind of career navigation support that we provide at Jumpstart, in which I'll get into a few minutes. But really, this effective networking, being authentic, stay curious, like, do follow-ups, stay consistent. Sometimes it's not fair for, newcomer refugee who's struggling to find a job, to tell them, stay patient, be positive. But unfortunately, that's how you play. Like, if you're desperate, if you're anxious, then, the resumes that you're writing, the cover letters they're reading, the connections that you're trying to build will not work if you're not staying positive and working consistently. Interview prep, again, mistakes that we see, very mistakes that cost them the job sometimes. And so really understanding the interview requirements, preparing for the interview. Some people say, I've been applying for jobs, 50 jobs, 100 jobs in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, and they don't track who they applied. And when they get a phone call for a screening, sometimes they don't even remember to which company they applied for. And so those kind of little things that make the difference is what we encourage the job seekers at Jumpstart to the clients at Jumpstart to work on and think about. And again, those are some of the tips that you can share with the people that you sponsor as well. And so really understanding the company, what are the requirements, what questions to expect, and to go above and beyond what you need to do so that you're ready for whatever questions that you're asked at the interview. So again, a lot of the clients that I work with tell me that, asking about scenarios and situations, asking about strengths and weaknesses, that's not common, in their back home. And so really helping them to prepare for those kind of trainings makes a huge difference. Again, some things that the newcomers think shouldn't make a difference. Dressing professionally and arriving a little early, and those kind of basic things that we take them for granted. Um, uh, could be a huge barrier for the newcomer job seekers. Again, communication. Whether it's at the interview, whether it's when you ask for coffee chats, whether it's when they go to events and things like that. So really understanding the effective communication skills are significant. Okay, sorry if I was too fast. I know it's a long presentation, but now I'll focus on the services that we provide at Jumpstart Refugee Talent to try to mitigate some of the areas that I've talked about. So again, we encourage and we empower for the newcomers to do those kind of things on their own, but we also provide support. And so I'll talk a little bit about the support now. In the remaining few minutes that I have. So again, as I said, Jumpstart's position is a position of empowerment, a position of providing tools and resources, and we do that to anybody with a refugee and forced displacement experience, whether they're refugee claimants, whether they're people coming through the temporary status, for example, from Ukraine, from Gaza, from Sudan, they would be eligible. And the other two really requirements that we have is they have to have intermediate English level 6 and above, with flexible on 5. And they have to have either a post-secondary education or 2+ years of professional work experience from back home. And of course, they have to be actively looking for employment. And the way it works, the process at Jumpstart, is that we have a very detailed and comprehensive intake form where they need to fill out. And that asks, their experience back home, their education back home, what's their desired industry in Canada. So they fill out that form, it comes to us, and one of our intake person calls them between 1 to 2 business days, within 1 to 2 business days. And then they probe more. Okay, you have experience in that, you have experience in that. What is it that you want to do in Canada? Do you want to stay in the same industry, or are you starting a new one? What transferable skills you may have? So we really help them through that process. And sometimes their industries are highly regulated industries like engineering and healthcare. And so, they have to look into alternative positions. And so that's where our intake, and I'll come in the next slide, our career navigation team really provides. So in addition, once we complete that intake, before we channel them to the rest of the resources, we share something we call a career navigation report. And that report has a list of resources for training, for bridging programs, or for, if they are in a regulated industry, on the process to go through the licensing journey. So those trainings are industry specific, geography specific, and we wouldn't put anything that is that we think would be not affordable for them, like very expensive trainings. So we really look for resources that we think would be more affordable and effective. And in addition to that, this is a new program that we'll be starting in the next few weeks, which is the career coaching. So the gap that we had before is, yes, we do the comprehensive intake, yes, we share those resources, but we were not sure if they were following, through the resources, if they were checking, if they were doing any training and additional certification, because we didn't have the capacity to really follow up and provide additional tools and encourage them to take more training. But now we have the resources, and this program will be starting soon. And so there will be more engagement, more resources from people that are experts in that area, so that they can really empower them to help them identify their strengths and their barriers and their aspirations, so that they can take relevant trainings and certifications early on in their career journey. And I know the other traditional employment counselors, one person is supposed to be the point of contact for employment, the resume builder, the career coach. At Jumpstart, we do it a little differently, which is we have a team that's expert in resume building. All they do is really resume building and working with clients. There is a team who does, mentorship. They recruit mentors and provide. I'll get into that in a minute. There is a team who does employment, employer recruitment, employer education, and matching and organizing hiring events. And then there's our team, which does, outreach and navigation, career navigation and intake. And so once we do that, they go to the resume team. The resume team provide all the necessary work for them to have a standardized Canadian resume. And we have a mentorship team. So the mentorship team, again, actively recruits mentors who can provide a newcomer professional in their industry and really closely work with them for about 4 months, where they would really help them to enhance their employment profile, to expand their career options, and to provide professional networks, whether it's connecting them to their LinkedIn, whether it's inviting them to their work events and things like that. And that has been really, really effective. The people who go through those kind of mentorship programs tend to find, the meaningful job faster than the ones who doesn't go through mentorship program. Because again, you get answers to all your questions from somebody who's an expert and senior to you in that same industry. And
I'll
we're
give you your
also
2-minute warning, Dalit.
okay. Well, thank you so much. I have very few slides, so I should get that. The other program that we have is credential evaluation. A lot of people, I'm sure a lot of people that you get involved in sponsoring, they come from countries where, because of political situation, because of conflict, they're not able to stay connected to their institutions, so they cannot get official documents so that they can do their credential evaluation through the standard process with World Education Services. So that's where we come in. We partner with WES so that we can refer somebody who studied in those countries listed on the screen, and whether it's a high school diploma, post-secondary education, then World Education Services would do the assessment without requesting official documents from back home, so that the newcomers can continue higher education or licensing and things like that. We do have interview prep session where the client get into that job interview on their own, or we facilitated the process. We have a team who would provide interview prep sessions. We do provide skill building workshops where we invite experts. They can share, whether it's employers, whether it's people with lived experience who are now successful, whether it's other organizations or providing bridging programs. We invite them so that they can share the best way to succeed in their industry or in their company and things like that. And of course, all that, the ultimate goal is to support the newcomers, to help the newcomers to find a meaningful job, to get connected to the employment opportunities. So that's why we have our Refugee Talent Hub team that, again, is actively engaging with employers, recruiting employers, educating employers about the challenge refugees face, why they may have gaps in their resumes, why they may have moved from job to job in a short period of time. So unless you really provide those kind of informations, the employers may not know. And so our RTH team, which is managed by Daryl, works really, really hard in doing that. We do provide employer-specific hiring events or bigger hiring events. And so that team really works hard in that aspect. But we also have entrepreneurship support, where we do a one-on-one entrepreneurship support. If somebody has a business in Canada, they had a business back home, they want to get back into that. So we have a person who would provide a one-on-one support. We also, on a project basis, we organize entrepreneurship group workshops and sessions, and we had an amazing Her Startup program where we worked with Syrian Canadian Foundation. We had over 100 women applying for that. We had over 30 women who went through a 6 months intense training, and we have about 5 women that we're actively working now to help them start their business. In addition to that, we launched very recently a refugee marketplace, where not only helping them to launch a business, but we want to help them to market their products and to really empower them to get into people, so that they can know about them, so that they can buy their products. And we're actively working on that, and we hope to maximize that this year. The big gap that we have is people coming to us with low level English, level 3 to level 5, which we think are not ready for employment opportunities. And we run a pilot with an online English training provider called NGen. It's based in the US. You all know how the link classes are. They're very slow. They're not that effective. And so we piloted about 50 people for that English training. We're yet working on the outcomes of that pilot, but our initial assessments were that if the newcomer refugees are actively and proactively engaged with the training, that has been determined to be very successful. So not sure we're adapting this as a permanent program yet, but this is one thing that we tried to kind of mitigate that gap that we have in supporting refugees with low-level English. Apologies if I was too quick to try to catch up with time. But yeah, this is Jumpstart, and happy to stay on and answer any questions.
Good morning, everyone. Just thank you for inviting me. And I just want to maybe add a few things. I myself also immigrant, been in Canada like for more than 30 years, but I went through 2 immigrations. I live in Toronto and work in Toronto, but we provide information to people all over Ontario and sometimes Canada. They reach us through virtual and online registrations. I will show my presentation in a second. I just want also, okay, share, 1 second. Okay. Okay. Can you see my presentation? Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Okay. I also forgot to mention I speak 4 languages in addition to English, Russian, Hebrew, and Spanish. I'm presenting here YMCA Newcomer Information Center, settlement services. And we been around since 2001. And now we have 5 locations around the GTA, mostly in Toronto. And we provide information on, I, I emphasize that we provide information about other services as well. By the way, also including what David was saying about his services. So we have a huge database, and we always try to match the needs of our newcomers that we talk to the geographical area where they live. So we provide information on settlement, employment, including education, all kinds of community resources, government benefits, sometimes even childcare, finding childcare. And we refer to other services. In some cases, that if we cannot, for example, working to help the client, to help people to fill out the form. So we know who can help them. So we will give very concrete address, phone, and names who can help them in this case. Just a few programs to mention. We have I'm representing Newcomer Information Center, but we have a Newcomer Youth Leadership Development. Probably you heard about them. They're for youth from 13 to 30, recently changed, used to be to up to 24, now up to 30. Of course, they're broken down in different groups. And a few programs to mention that are very successful that delivered by us, Newcomer Information Center, is a mentoring program for newcomers. It's 4 weeks gathering with mentors who are guiding newcomers with their job search, what to do, what not to do, you know, those kind of things. We have a very interesting intro to interpersonal communication program that partnered with the Toronto Metropolitan University. Also a 4-week course designed to help internationally educated professionals to enhance their, you know, personal and professional success by effective communication. And all kind of conversational English groups, either online. We have online groups, we have in-person groups, and most recent we started delivering Why Mind Matters, which is mental health support for newcomers. It's 6 meetings with all kinds of topics, like about healthy eating or anger, frustration, you know, what newcomers experience in a new country. And now, as one of our webinars that we deliver, I would say almost monthly, Your Road to Employment. And I will show you a few things that we talk to newcomers during this presentation. And the goal of this presentation, Your Road to Employment, is to have a big picture. We are not focusing on details of every single thing, but to have a big picture, how you get to employment, what are the most important things to think about. So David also already mentioned difficulties that prevent newcomers from finding employment. I want to, you know, intercultural shock, David already talked about this. I want to focus a little bit on lack of Canadian experience. And by the way, this, what you see on the screen, this is a result of multiple surveys of employers on one hand and newcomers on the other hand. So employers many times say what they call lack of Canadian experience is actually that newcomers are not familiar with the environment in this new country. They behave differently. They sometimes maybe smell differently, and sometimes they just need some adjustment in that sense. So we also deliver some workshops about Canadian workplace culture that might be helpful to that. We emphasize how important in this case is volunteering, because you become familiar with the culture through volunteering. Another thing I want to mention is lack of knowledge of employment services available. And I see newcomers, our clients many times come to us with questions, of course, about employment. So, and we ask them, is anyone helping you? Oh, yes, my sister, my friend. And they're not even thinking that there are so many free services that can help you to build your resume, to prepare for the interview. So we have a huge database, and depending on the geographical area, we would refer people to appropriate agency that can help them with employment issues. Also, people many times unfamiliar with the Canadian labor market. And Canadian labor market is seeing that people can research themselves, but employment services, they are there to help them to do that job. It's not very easy. And why is it important? It tells people what jobs and skills employers are looking for in that particular area, which industries are hiring in this particular geographical area, and where to find those employers. Maybe what education and training you need for this specific job. We always talk to newcomers, trying to suggest to break your long-term goal to find this dream job into so-called enabling goals. Maybe improve your English, maybe not just improve your English, but improve your professional English. ESL classes, LINC classes, they are very general, but there are also so-called occupation-specific language programs. There are ELT programs, enhanced language training programs for particular professions. So we talk about those short-term goals with people. Maybe not for everyone, those short-term goals would be relevant. But we mention them, and we see what is most appropriate for this particular, for clients, newcomers' particular situation. We mentioned to them in the webinar that we talked about today, your road to employment, how important it is to have not one resume, but a few different resumes. And because many people, which is, understandable, need survival job. So for this or another, maybe not one, 2, 3 different survival jobs, you need completely different resumes. But almost all resumes need to focus on soft skills. Soft skills, the interpersonal relationship building skills, communication. And we always refer to programs, not only that I mentioned. Our program is Introduction to Interpersonal Communication, as I mentioned, with the Toronto Metropolitan University, but also other programs that build your soft skills in other organizations. As I mentioned, we have a few hundreds of different programs that we refer to. Those programs are in our database, and we always try to adjust anything that is relevant to particular situation. So we sometimes, and in this webinar, Your Road to Employment, we talk about how important to understand the meaning of transferable skills, because transferable skill can be anything, either communication skills or hard skills. If you know computers, you can use it in any job, and it will be used as a transferable skill, but with a wise, um, wise twist. You will have to know how to adjust those skills that you gained to the job that employers is to the employee that employers are looking for. When you do, before you even start, I'm saying you because most of the time I'm talking to newcomers. When newcomers start in their journey looking for employment, it is so essential to do the self-inventory. And sometimes people underestimate that. YMCA, we have this newcomer career exploration toolkit. It's existing in print version, yeah, and there is also a link you see on the screen online that people can explore their own abilities to help themselves to create an inventory of their skills, either hard skills, communication skills, and we had many good success stories using this toolkit. After we talk to newcomers and we are saying that self-marketing is so essential, when you already know your skills and you know your field of interest, then comes effective resume creation. And there are so many services that can help with the resume. We always refer to very particular program that help with resume, either women looking for a job or youth looking for a job. There are so many different, service organizations that can help you. It's very particular referral that we always give. Also, we talk about cover letter, importance, why do you need to write a cover letter? Many times newcomers say, why do I have to write a cover letter? This is the additional tool that you can introduce yourself and emphasize why you are better than other applicants for this job. Also, practice an interview with those organizations that we will help to find, again, I repeat, we help to find the organization, the program that helps in particular situation. Very quickly, maybe, just when we talk to newcomers, we explain that there are different ways to create a resume, but your resume is not a biography, is not your biography. Most important to remember, chronological resume, which is self-explanatory, right? That you just start with a recent job that you participated, you did. Your recent job was something related to what you are looking for now, then it will be a chronological resume. If you are looking for some kind of change, Maybe you want to use your transferable skill in a new job. Then the best thing would be functional resume by function. But again, we don't, sorry to say, we don't help to do the resume in our service. We find someone who will help you to do what you need to do. So also about job interview, I just want to mention, there is so many literature written, created on the internet, even books and articles, how to answer this or another question when in the job interview. But we are trying to explain to newcomers that there are basically three areas that employers, when they talk to you in the job interview, this is what they're trying to figure out. Skills. Are your skills really, they're trying to verify what you wrote in the resume. Is it really what they need in their job, in this job? So they want the evidence of skills to succeed in this job. This is one area. Another area is motivation. Like, are you committed to do the job? Because many newcomers, let's be honest, they are overqualified many times to do particular jobs. The other day, I was talking to a math teacher who is working as a server in a restaurant for now. So, when you are looking for survival job, motivation is very important to demonstrate and to show that you are interested to do this job and why. So this is another area, skills, motivation, and another area that employers are usually concerned with is flexibility. Is it easy to manage you within the team? Maybe you are too negative. Maybe you are too critical. So those are three major areas that employers are thinking about when they are constructing their questions and ask you during the interview. Do I still have time?
You have 2 minutes, Dora.
Okay, so
Thank
I
you.
just want to mention, I already mentioned we have a mentoring program, but there are so many, there is tons or different mentorship programs to bring together mentors and mentees, and they are very successful. I know from results from our program, mentoring program, it's just 4 meetings of mentors and mentees, and the results are amazing. Of course, we always refer people who come from those so-called regulated professions. We refer them to 2 major offices that can help them to find something that is relevant and to their professional field, and not it doesn't require licensing or certification. So 2 of them I just want to mention: Health Force Ontario for medical professions and Global Experience Ontario for any others. And bridging programs, and we are talking about internationally educated professionals with degree. Bridging programs are, maybe sometimes people don't really see the difference between bridging programs and some other programs that include English learning, like enhanced language learning training or occupation-specific language training. In those programs, in language programs, there is a big portion of language training. Bridging programs don't have the language training. They assume that your English is already high level. So it's supposed to be CLB, Canadian Language Benchmark. 7 or 8, 8 the highest. So these programs are trying to connect newcomers to employers, to promote newcomers to employers. They create meetings, they create connections. So I would say this is the bottom line, that always we try to connect with the relevant employment counselor in the area where the person lives and where the person is planning to find employment. And of course, all these centers, in addition to employment counselors, they have all kinds of, resources, other resources, computers. Also in our centers, we have computers that people can use freely and print. Resume writing, David also mentioned, was interesting to learn that they have those resume writing workshops, and cover letters, networking. Okay, I just want to mention we have YMCA I'm representing Newcomer Information Center, but YMCA has employment services with employment counselors in all these locations. Okay. We don't have, in my location, I'm coming from the downtown Toronto. In my location, there is no employment service per se. So that's why we always try to find if the person lives, let's say, in downtown Toronto. So there are so many other organizations depending on the situation of the newcomer and the stage of employment, job search. The last slide, I want to just show you just a little bit of, it's on one slide, but in fact, there are many other employment services around.